a national conference. This will be one of the first, I believe, that they have put on. And there's still questions about the scope of it and the location, whether it's going to be in Manhattan or Albany, depending upon some decisions that are made. But the theme of the conference is public higher education as a public good. And so people are really excited about this. I'm on the planning committee for that. Again, that's also a year out. We're looking at probably October or November of next year for that. But as more happens, as we get more planned, I'll certainly be updating you. And that's pretty much it on the state level.
Questions? Thank you. Bridget, Hina.
Hi everyone, I'm the new faculty senate chair. This year we have only had one faculty senate meeting so far. Our second is coming up in a couple weeks in October. My goal this year is really to focus on three main priorities. The first is increasing our communication. I come from communication studies realm, so it's an area of expertise for me. So I'm really excited to increase our transparency and just try to work on the perception of faculty senate across the university and engagement within those spaces. Second is to continue to support our DEI efforts across campus. So we're working closely with Allison Hurd, the Vice President of DEI, on Black Solidarity Day and Community Night right now are some of our main focuses. So we're really excited. We just put a call for proposals out for Black Solidarity Day. And they're already coming in, and we have hopefully enough rooms. That was our biggest struggle last year, was just having enough space for all the people who wanted to attend. So we're really excited and working closely with our VPs to ensure that not just faculty and students, but staff will also have access to that day. Along with that, Faculty Senate Exec is also working with the DEI office and the new executive director of our Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation Center, just to see how we can better support their efforts in the upcoming year. And my third priority is to do some work with faculty and staff retention. We think we have been doing a great job focusing on students and how we retain them, but we know that faculty is an essential part to that retention process. So as Faculty Senate, we see it's an important role we can take on to kind of start addressing where we may have gaps in that area. So we have already been working with VPs here, having meetings, had some meetings with the chairs of our three colleges to just have initial discussions, or deans of our three colleges, then meeting with the chairs in the next couple weeks. So that work will be continued.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Michelle Toth cannot be with us today. She is at a UUP fair. Sounds like fun. But she did include a report that is in your folder there, so you can check that over at your leisure. And Nancy, CSEA, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Nancy Bennett. I took over as the CSEA president of our local here on campus in January, and from Ethel Facto was president for years and years. So some of you probably know her. And this year I'm just mostly focusing on getting more member engagement and getting them involved in committees, working hard to keep some committees going and some new committees on campus. EAP, I think, is an essential one. So that's what we've been up to, and then more communication with our members, started a Facebook page so we can get communication out to the members easier on campus. So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Anybody have any questions for Nancy? Okay, you got the divisional reports ahead of time, so you may have some questions, or the VPs may want to share some additional information or highlight some things. So Anne, I'll turn it over to you for institutional.
Good to see everybody. So I did just share with you one of our flyers for our North Country Scholarship Program. It's kind of hot off the press. It just highlights the support that the foundation provides to local students. All made possible by charitable gifts. The other thing I wanted to just call out was there will be a really, I think will be a wonderful talk. September 27th, I'll pass out the flyers on it. One of our alumni, Tim Spofford, class of 71, will be returning to campus as a distinguished visiting alumnus. And he has an amazing story to tell just in regards to when he was on campus and saw the the campus response to the Kent State shootings, and almost very shortly after that, Jackson State. Just the difference in the way the nation responded to those two different events, one being predominantly white, and the second event affecting African-American students. So that was what really set him on this path of studying and looking at race and racism in the United States. And he's written an amazing book called The Legendary Doll Test, and two Black psychologists who changed history. So the story, I won't give it all away. You need to come and hear it, but it really is linked to desegregation of public education in the United States. And the two psychologists who were at the forefront of researching how very young kids were impacted by this. So I'll pass this out, and I hope it's in the middle of the day. So it's at 12 o'clock on Wednesday. If you're local, maybe you can come. There's some great information here. Kudos to Terry Chapin Levine for organizing everything. And Andrea and President Yeti have already been down to Florida to visit with Tim Spofford, and definitely a big part of building that relationship and welcoming him back. So excited to have him. Two quick announcements.
Okay, anything else you want, is there any, after reading Ann's report,
I just have a question about the qualifications for the North Country Scholarship. It's one of the, but I don't see them.
Well, it still involves merit. It's a merit-based award. So I don't have the specific qualification. It's administered by the Office of Financial Aid. So all of the scholarship dollars that we receive through charity support foundation ultimately get rolled over to the office.
Right, so there's not an application procedure, it's
No,
not something to make, got a lot of.
No, it's basically the student applies and they're eligible, they get offered the award. It's a recruitment process to.
Got you, but the finally people will just giving it out on
So.
whatever, it's, we don't know if it's income based, or if it's
It's not income based.
Okay,
It's an
all right.
academic merit award.
just pure academic merit. Okay, thank you.
7 counties, so it's a
Yeah,
large.
I see that, yeah, yeah, thank you.
maybe Ann, if you could get the the eligibility criteria and just send it out to us, that would be helpful.
Yeah, that's gonna be the question that everyone is going to be asking instantly.
Well, I just want to add, this is not a new scholarship. It's been around for a while. So it's again, I don't want people to think it's brand new. It's been, yeah.
How many?
13.
Yeah. And it just happens that we have someone who knows a little bit about financial aid with us today.
Yeah, so. It's last 3 years, I think admissions is doing a holistic review process, so they score of 69 or higher on this holistic review, which takes account of academic criteria, extracurricular activities, and that's where it's historically been. Next year, though, they're gonna convert to something that's gonna be using high school average. So most likely the cutoff will be 90 or higher for the upcoming, which will be a lot clearer for families, so they won't have to go into some big long explanation about holistic review. If you'd have a 69, no, it's gonna be 90 high school average or above.
Right.
Yeah, when you get into that, then you're dealing, sorry, this is just a little my world. Then you get into, okay, are you looking at just academics? Are you looking at every single course they took? Are you looking at weighted? Are you looking at SAT?
Yeah, so
Somebody's
it's part of the holistic review. So what we are trying to streamline the undergraduate admissions process. And so if people hit above a 90, there's going to be an automatic admission process as opposed to the holistic. So when students fall underneath, maybe they have an 88, we're going to look at that more expanded criteria. So as Todd mentioned, the community service, part-time jobs, leadership positions and things like that to determine one admission to the institution, but also the merit aid that they'll be receiving.
Okay. Thank you.
I wanted to bring up we chatted about, a couple of folks chatted about this at the September 11th memorial, just for consideration by the campus. We have two alums that are recognized on the headstone at the pond. There are many more individuals that have now passed due to cancer-related situations, such as Trooper Fowl, who is a member of our home community. I think that there is enough space to make a denotation, not for him, but a denotation of all individuals that, you know, kind of served in a healing or something capacity. I think would be really powerful for this campus, because there's many more of our alumni that died due to September 11th activities, post activities. And I don't believe any other campus that has had a memorial has denoted something like that. I just think it would be a powerful statement. So food for thought. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions on Ann's report? I have one. I see that you have an Alumni Friends Regional Reception in North River. That's my neck of the woods. That doesn't happen very often. What's the EXP mean?
That's our non-deck experience program, experiential learning, outdoors. So they're actually going to be kayaking at that event. So
Oh, are they? Well, I won't be joining you then. I thought, oh, here's one I can go to. No.
I wish I had the name of the company, but one of our graduates has a kayak business basically at North River. And so
You know, there's Beaver Brook up there, there's Adirondack Experience, there's a couple of different ones that are up out there, so.
You see, the Plattsburgh one has a cocktail party.
Yeah, I know.
well, after the done
Okay. Well, good, I hope you have nice weather. The river's high, I mean, it's good because we had a lot of rain, so. All right, no other questions for Ann? Okay, Allison is not with us either. And I guess she's with the governor in Saranac Lake. Oh, Lieutenant Governor. The Lieutenant Governor in Saranac Lake. So, but she did, you have her report, but she wanted me to highlight a couple of things. So, she's attending the North Country Regional Council on Bias and Hate meeting in Saranac Lake today. The new initiative was organized by the governor's office. Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado is the lead working with the group. They are beginning work today on an action plan, and she is representing SUNY Plattsburgh. Details on this are included in your packet, along with the materials that Vice President Hurd provided. She wants me to highlight the following. There's a reminder that community night is this Friday, September 22nd at 6 p.m. at Hawkins Pond. Black Solidarity Day is on Monday, November 6th. Kickoff for the day will begin at 8:30 a.m. The Chief Diversity Officer from the city system. One of the sessions will be hosted by Director of Institutional Effectiveness, Kylie King, and VP Hurd to focus on the new dashboards. The title of the session will be Using Data to Close Equality Gaps for Underrepresented Students. DEI is collaborating with Institutional Advancement to host some programs at Homecoming to gather current students, alumni, and community members. New events include the DEI Unity Day Party on Saturday from noon to 2 and a jazz brunch on Sunday morning. So if you have questions on Vice President Hurd's report or any of this information, I'm sure she would welcome emails from you to ask. Okay, Todd, administration and finance.
So you have the report, highlight a couple items on it. So we received funding for the Red K design phase of the Red K renovation, so it's right across the way. From the SUNY Construction Fund, $6.7 million. Design phase is planned to kick off in early 2024, probably January. I believe the timeline is about 9 months, the design phase. And that's just funding for the design phase. So after the design phase is funded, we come up with the design, we'll have an estimate for the full construction, and then that will be submitted to the state for funding. It'll line up the cycle. That is, once the design ends, submit that to state, and then hopefully the next round of funding we'll get for the construction. One other item too, the last bullet point, just some data there. So in spring of 20 financial aid and student accounts used to separate offices. We used to have two sets of windows, one window for financial aid, one window for student accounts, 2 sets of phone lines, 2 email addresses. And in spring of 21, we merged them into a single office. So 1 phone line, 1 set of front windows, 1 email address. And you can see some of the data. So our phone calls went from about 26,000 2 years later to about 19,000. And our service levels also got better, our abandon rate improved, and our waiting time for people improved. So, and the idea behind that is just, it was less referrals between offices, so. When you have a billing question, you don't know whether you're calling financial aid or billing, so you might call one and then you have to get transferred to the other. And so it's basically a single point of contact service now, so it's less referrals and better service of people.
That was fascinating, actually. They were probably like, oh my God, why? I was hoping it wasn't because the line was busy.
6%, that abandon rate is basically the percent of people who call, hang up.
Yeah,
6%. And that's an average throughout the year, so obviously worse after bills go out.
Yeah.
Anybody have any other questions on Todd's report?
I wanted to, and I can't think of his name now, I'm having a mental block, but your colleague that gave an overview of just kind of all the construction projects at the retreat.
Tyson,
Tyson,
yeah.
Just wanted to say that was really well done.
Oh, next, yeah.
Or that would be nice for us to get on a, not every meeting, but like, once a year, quarter, like type of thing, that'd be nice. But
Yeah, I appreciate that. He does a great job explaining it.
And explaining the funding streams of all of
Yeah.
that.
But in similar vein, knowing that College Auxiliary Service has a dotted line to you, it would be nice to get a presentation of College Auxiliary Services with all the construction trends and stuff that are going on.
Yeah, we're just getting some pictures. We're just getting some finishing the.
Put the
I was like,
flag-
all right,
put the flag out there.
last week we got some pictures and now, so all right, now we can start taking it out, showing it a little bit more. So we just saw some of the pictures of the concept drawing, what they're planning on doing in a sundowner. So yeah, that's a great idea. So.
Any other comments or questions? You? Then we move on to Dr. Carvajal. Welcome.
Pleasure to meet all of you. This year, I'm here to represent what is most meager of reports, simply because I started on August 14th. I did not have much in the way of contents to provide you. I will just take advantage of the opportunity to well, I guess number one, thank you for the opportunity, and then second to say my first month here has been very good. I have enjoyed working with the senior leadership team. I am very impressed with the academic deans and the leadership there, so I'm confident that the goals that the president and committee set before me in August will be accomplishable. And I think I should also say that Bridget mentioned the communication and also retention issues, and I really look forward to working with the faculty senate on those. I think there's a lot of possibility there and things that we need to investigate, and to whatever extent I can be helpful with an external perspective, I want to do that. And So I look forward to that as well. That is not to leave out all of you. I am accustomed to working with the Board of Trustees that's appointed by the Governor of the state of Washington. So this is that type of governance structure, and I have always appreciated the kind of points of view and questions and thoughts that can come from this group in guiding a public institution. So I'm happy to try to answer a question or two, but I don't know that I'll be successful.
Any questions?
We'll just wait till he's been here.
What do you like best so far?
You had a Michigan.
Mountains or water.
So I've learned that the answer is both.
Ah.
I get asked somewhat frequently, am I a Seahawks fan? Yes, I'm a Seahawks fan.
I love their uniforms.
And a Mariners fan and all of that. No, I think I am honestly, you're not gonna believe this, but I am looking forward to when the weather changes. We don't get a lot of snow in at least between the mountains and, you know, where we are there. So that will be, I'll probably regret saying that. I live very close in an apartment over here, so I can walk if I need to, so. But I've liked a lot of things here so far, especially the people, which is always the most important thing. You meet good people and that's what you have here.
So how have you started meeting the faculty here? Have you had one-on-ones? Have you done group meetings?
Thank you for that question. I was very pleased that really the I guess it was the Friday before the first day of classes. The president gave a state of the university type speech. Then I was able to visit with all the academic schools. I appreciated that you said colleges, because I have a hard time with that. With all the faculty in the schools that day, I didn't meet with them individually, but as a group, so I got to at least see people and talk a little bit. Faculty Senate, there's been one meeting, and then otherwise, just kind of, I have meetings with departments, and that will continue. Not a whole lot of one-on-ones so far, but some. Less than a handful thus far. But it was nice to be able to meet, to at least be in front of that, all the faculty.
I'll ask a question that you may not be able to answer, so to be fair, we can make it like the old game show if you need to follow Brad. It's my understanding that the Division for Academic Affairs did not meet their financial objective for their goals, and I think it's very difficult to have somebody come as an interim to fully understand the landscape within a year's period. How do you grapple with that challenge as well as keeping the train on tracks?
Well, keeping the trains on the tracks is something I have a lot of experience with. That I'm not too terribly concerned about. The nuances and the details of the budget, I am working with both academic affairs budget as well as the university budget. I fully anticipate that we'll be able to meet those goals this year. I would be lying to you if I were to say I know exactly how that's going to happen after. But I think there are a lot of people here that know a lot about the budget, and one of them is sitting 2 seats down from me here. And I know enough about academic budgets to be able to apply some of my own thinking on it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
It gives a preview, and it wasn't a setup. It just, you know, you're here as an interim, and that's not to be disrespectful. It's not to set you up for failure either. I want you to have to fall on the sword.
The reason it's very appropriate and actually good question. The uninformed outsider might expect someone to just kind of randomly, capriciously, whatever, to say, oh, well, this needs to happen. Let's get it done fast. You really can cause some damage unless you really do understand what you're looking at why it is as it is, and then make a move that, or a series of them. So, so I appreciate that, yeah, you're not, I'm not. Here's the way to put it. I haven't been set up for failure, and my job is to set up the permanent provost for success. So that said, a huge piece of that is to make sure that things are aligned on the extensive revenue side.
As a reminder, the budget cycle normally starts in January for 24-25, so we're sort of starting the process right now. So we're talking about 24-25 budget cuts.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much. Heather, this is sort of a new report for the College Council, Strategic Communications and Marketing. So, is there anything you want to highlight out of your report?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of lay the foundation, sort of let everyone know where we are, where we're going. I think, you know, I've been here 2 years now. I had my anniversary last week, I think. And in that time, if I had to summarize this team, I would say it's growth and opportunity. We're constantly sort of shifting and growing and changing. And I think the highlight for me is the 2 new positions that we have coming on to be responsive to the need for photography, video, social, strong social media strategy, and then the internal communications piece, which is critical. And when I came, the team was doing pretty strictly student recruitment. And so with Karen here, we're working more on retention strategy as well. Working with Brent, it's a lot of opportunity that I'm seeing and a lot of growth that's, I think, coming. And I feel really confident that we're going to get there with new positions, with some new leadership, with new ideas and really collaborative approaches. I think it's going to be really, really wonderful. I think, yeah, you know, I think we're also working more with the data to be more data informed, because we're, you know, in terms of our contracts, vendors we're working with, what kind of strategy are we doing? So we're really looking to the numbers. So it's helpful for my team also to sit with this full report and really look at what we're doing and how that all intersects with what they're doing, with what the campus is doing. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And, you know, since the retreat that I attended at the end of summer, I think, you all gave me a lot to think about in terms of direction and just sort of conversations. So I tried to bring some of that back to my team, and also when I was framing this report, what might be the most useful, but I'm happy to try to address any other questions that might not be answered here. And we do have our Facebook page back. I just want to say that happened August 1st. So yes, we're getting some engagement there. So that's
I have 3 questions, and I'll lay them out there. One is, from my perspective, it seems as though the college has been on a trend that every so number of years that the college at the university, excuse me, has done a master website refresh. Seems like the website is due for one. I'd be curious what your thoughts are on that. I'm also curious as to what your thoughts on how originally it was my understanding that the alumni magazine was being cut or reduced, what your thoughts are on that. And finally, how do we, as a university, how are we creating a priority letter for the publics, meaning that student recruitment, alumni, and community are, and those are only 3 of them, are very unique publics to which to communicate with. With a very small team still, how are priorities being set to leverage resources?
so going back to the first question, the website. So yeah, we've been talking about that, in fact, and a couple, you know, Karen and I have been talking about that as well. That is absolutely something that I would say is a budget issue for us. It's going to take a lot of investment, but also my understanding is that the previous one was a shared stakeholder, you know, stakeholders across campus who came together to make those decisions. I think that we are working on a platform that is very we're getting what we're getting in terms of layout. So that is a conversation that I've started having with other people. But I think for us, the main issue is the cost, the time. We definitely have the expertise. I think we have the insight, but so it's not a conversation that we haven't been having is really where I can say, and it's that we've been having, more seriously recently, but I know that at the moment, we're just trying to be responsive to what we can do with requests and with meeting people's needs and trying to figure out at least what is it that we're trying to achieve and seeing if we can, achieve that with what we have. So I know that's not an ideal answer to say, hey, we have this new thing coming next month, but it's definitely something that is on the radar. In terms of reaching various audiences, I think when we get our new social media person, I think that'll be something that they'll be focusing on. Our strategy is going to be different platforms for different audiences. That's something that I want to see. I don't want to see just a Facebook post go up and then everything gets copied to each platform. So we're definitely going to be leveraging social media in a better way. And also working more with retention, recruitment, and figuring out how to structure those more in a more targeted way. So I'm not sure if I'm answering that question because I don't know if.
No, it is. I mean, it's, and again, I recognize there's a limited team,
Yeah.
but again, there's seasons, right?
Yes. Yes.
Getting out in front of students is gonna be, it has to be a priority. But that homecoming, graduate, what have you.
Right.
So,
And a lot of it too is just working better with, more strongly with, I think, campus partners, that they might have the ear of a certain audience. So just making sure that we're coordinating, collaborating more internally as well, that it doesn't have to come from our office, but it can be supported and coordinated by our office. So I think that's more critical and I'm hoping that internal communication person will, I know that they will focus on that as well. So that we know that we're having stronger internal coordination of who's sending out what messaging and is it aligned with what other people are sending and saying. And as far as the alumni magazine, I don't know that I can really speak to that. That's not something that's been in my area. I know that alumni are critical to what we do and they're critical in our mission. So that is a conversation that, I haven't had with Anne, but I do know that they're critical and I can't really speak to other than the value that I know they bring, the logistics and what went into the decision.
Just a little comment. A couple of times in the last few years, I've gone to things where Plattsburgh State was involved, community things. And it got such a great response, Bergie and the parade with the kids and, people talked about Plattsburgh State for a bit, blah, blah, blah. I know it's hard. I've been at 4 major universities recently because of grandkids, like UConn and Michigan and recently University of Cincinnati and Penn State. All right, now they're massive. They have departments that would be the size of probably our whole administrative. I know that, but what they do is they're at once or twice a year. They're at the craft fair. We hold one here. They're at the farmers market once or twice, and all it is they have information about the college, obviously, but they have something that attracts the parents. They give out a banner, they give out a pencil, I don't know, it's basic old-fashioned marketing, but I just wish, I don't know how either.
Yeah.
In this community with our, we don't have a lot of things, but I just wish I could see Plattsburgh State front and center somewhere, more than just, which parade was that? I think it must have been. Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't believe the response of people after that.
Yeah.
The college is out. Wow, they're part of us. It's.
I know.
Just wish.
I know. And it is, again, something that we've talked, and we're trying to coordinate that. And is there can we share that? Does it have to be marketing or can it just be coordinated as coordinated by marketing? So that is.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's necessarily your responsibility, but it is a marketing tool. Again, oh God, you're too young. The hockey team used to be phenomenal. The men's hockey team, they were at everything. It's St. Patrick's Day, you know, with their uniforms on, walking around and it just. It brought us foremost and. No, I appreciate
So to
it.
be clear, when you said that it was too young, do you mean like I didn't know St. Patrick?
I don't even think it's right. I knew St. Patrick. I'm that old.
Heather, just quick question, are those jobs posted already?
The multimedia one should be posted by the end of this week.
I might have alumni that apply, so I want to send me those.
Yeah, I can even send you the description before it gets going, just so you can have them, you know. Yeah.
Any other questions for Heather?
And I'm always happy if people want to email, if, you know, there's anything missing. Reach out.
Moving on to Karen McGrath.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to see you. When I saw you the last time, I wasn't officially here yet, but so I've been in my role a little over 2 months. And you know from the report that my division has been the recipient of, you know, close to over $1.7 million of either incremental or permanent funds from the state. We have met all of our proposals. We're starting to get the responses back. So we've officially been approved for our transformation fund. So we're in the process of hiring both a director and a success coach for our ACE program. And we're very excited about that because it's going to actually help us connect with 150 students who currently are unaffiliated with another type of special program. So it's going to become a cornerstone of one of our retention efforts. And then the other monies that we have from the transformation fund are ways in which we can have more seamless transfer pathways. And we're really concentrating on Clinton, North Country, and Adirondack. And Brent and myself and a member of his team and mine have been to the Queensbury campus already to really talk about how do we create stronger pipelines of transfer students utilizing these monies. And then the other money, which are now going to be permanent funds, really concentrate on our food shelf, the Cardinal Cupboard, mental health services, and our accessibility resources. So all of these areas are going to be benefiting tremendously, which means our students will really be, you know, seeing the great value for that. So more positions are being filled, more direct services for our students, and particularly within the accessibility resources and mental health, we've been able to isolate within that group a lot of money for programming, because it's not just about one-to-one direct student service. It really is about education and building that greater sense of belonging and bringing us all together as one. And so that's kind of what's happening with those monies. But I've been really kind of, to your point, Sid, it's like, how are we bringing back spirit, pride, and tradition? So within my division, we're having conversations about that. How are we really making our students feel that greater sense of pride so that, you know, the next generation of alumni feel that same connection and commitment to the institution? You know, we talk about retention, and Heather mentioned it a few times, and retention is really re-recruiting your students each and every day. And so it is about not just activities and academics, but it is about building that sense of place and that sense of pride. But we're going to also be looking at revamping all of our welcome week activities, as well as really stepping back and looking at our summer orientation, looking at what are we delivering, what is the purpose. So we're having a lot of strategic and tactical conversations in our division simultaneously. But the other thing I really want to emphasize is we can't forget, when we talk about recruitment, I really want you all to think about it in its totality. It's undergraduate, but it's also graduate. We're seeing a substantial growth in attraction to our graduate program. So Brent and I and his team, and we've been talking about what does that expanded portfolio look like? But when you start seeing the substantive growth of graduate admissions, we know that that is a pipeline that we have to continue to think about. We're thinking creatively with a lot of our 4+1 programs, but what else does it look like? But a question Todd and I have talked about, and Brent and I certainly have, is what does the proportionality of our students look like? You know, as we're approaching that 4,800 for Plattsburgh next, what does the composition of our community look like? Graduate, undergraduate, international, but also when we say undergraduates, we need to think about who's here, the brick and mortar, traditional, education programs versus our online degree completion. So those are philosophical conversations, but they have a lot to do with what the recruitment strategies and marketing will look like. It also has a lot to do with our financial stability of an institution. So those are some of the conversations that we're having really across the senior leadership team that I find really exciting.
Sid, this is, we just got here. Does anybody know what our melt, you know, over the years, maybe over the last 4 or 5 years, what ballpark percentage? Because that's always,
Yeah, summer melts, it is something that you have to track. We're seeing a very high summer melt this year. We'll probably end at close to 20% versus about 13% last year. That's not uncommon across higher ed now. A lot of students are double depositing to institutions.
yeah.
But they're also at the last minute changing their
Yes, I mean,
mind that they don't feel ready.
6 weeks.
Well, and that'll be reflective, the students who arrived and then leave, that'll be reflective of our census numbers, which will be out.
Right, I just didn't know if anybody had any idea over the last 7 weeks, or if it's.
70. No shows. So the students who registered in this thing, you have to do the census. Just about 50 to 70 students have registered classes
Oh.
at the beginning.
You just said 70%.
That's
So 70, it's about 70 students. If
Okay,
you look at how many students are
Alright.
registered, you know. First
yeah,
Friday, for the first week of classes, you know, and after the census.
yeah, not counting COVID, but I just didn't know if we have a 10% melt normally, or is there a normal, you know, it kind of lets you know where.
If by melt, you mean like who's registered, no, see melt in admissions.
They just-
Melt in admissions,
they-
melt is like it's somebody who deposits and then they don't show up, melt.
Are you talking about,
Counseling.
are you talking about the 3-week census?
Yes, yeah. In the counseling world, you always talk to kids about the melt. What you're talking about is how many left. They got there and then they
Oh,
disappeared.
actually, what you, so they've showed up and what's.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh.
So
Right.
melt is usually from the time they deposit till census of who you lose. But then those are students who've come and have chosen to withdraw during that first 3-week period of time. And we do track all of them.
Yeah.
All of those.
6 weeks, because those are,
It's a critical
you
time.
know, yeah, it is. It's a critical time, and it's also obviously more to you in your world, but it's where you always want to hold on to as many as you can. I mean, there are extenuating circumstances that happen to people that you just can't, but I just always like to see somebody just kind of trying to persuade them to, for the sake of the student. This is what I'm talking about here. It isn't, you know, the number kind of thing I'm looking for. It's just these kids.
So we have a group, it's called our care committee, so it's a big intervention group, and we meet twice a week to be looking at students who we think are struggling. And so there's direct interventions, and that starts right the first week, and that we start that the first week. And it may be a student who is exhibiting some kind of issue that university police, maybe somebody was intoxicated as a freshman, or it could be somebody who's having, you know, academic issues that are brought forward. So by doing that, this group, and it's very cross-functional, talks about the student, they talk about the intervention, who's going to be the best person to reach out, so that if there is something that we can mitigate to get the student to stay and have a healthier transition, we work on that.
I'm sure you let the student body know they can call someone. Yeah, because that's what's important. You know, if you've got somebody who's feeling lonely and is having difficulty making friends. Yeah, and if, oh my God, afraid to go to something that they like, you know, get into a club, they just. Well, anyway.
Yeah,
it's just
no.
that certain group.
Are
I'm
RAs
curious about it.
equipped or trained to, you know, reach out to your care committee and say, I've got kids who are struggling?
Counseling staff here and all that.
Yes, there's a referral system. There's a form that anybody can put in. So we have what's called Cardinal Star, which is our early alert system, where any of us can identify that a student is struggling. And then that gets triaged by a particular office, depending on what the need is. And then we also, within the residence halls, we have a a system where the RAs can actually put in if somebody's green, meaning everything's okay, yellow, something's not right, or red. And based on that, it gets triggered to someone else. I will tell you, the counseling center has been full all semester. So they're completely utilized, which is wonderful. But there's a lot of positives, I think, that have happened this fall. Many of us were at the community involvement fair last week. And the vibe on campus was exceptionally strong. Students were coming out to that. They were actively participating and signing up. We've had a lot of attendance at campus programs, whether they're in the residence halls or more community programming. Athletics, of course, is doing very well, which means, you know, the 30% of those students are feeling very happy. But there's been good attendance at home games and competitions. And so there really just has been a sense of great positivity. And from talking to faculty that I've been speaking with, they say students were they were going to class. They were, you know, seemingly much more engaged in the classroom than a year ago and the year before that. So those are all things that I think give us a sense that we're headed in the right direction and maybe coming out a little bit of the COVID fog.
Are there any resources or some sort of information for parents whose kids are on the phone saying, I want to go home? And, you know, how to handle that to, you know, sort of encourage them to stay.
So during orientation, there's several sessions that are just for families that are really kind of equipping them with those kinds of tools. And then on arrival day, you know, when they're moving their students in, they're given resources. And then certainly our website serves as that external facing. But, you know, this weekend at community night, a lot of those resource tables will be available. So families are coming into town early for family weekend. They'll certainly be present, but they also know to call. You know, families call. I mean, I get calls all the time. I certainly know the president's office does. And all of us get calls from them. They're not hesitant at all to call or email. We've had people call University Police to say, we haven't heard from our son in 3 days. Is he okay? Will you do a welfare check? So we do a lot of that. So I think they know that they can reach out to us, but we're doing a tremendous amount of direct outreach to our students as well.
I'm hoping they do, because I really think that a large percentage of the students, as kids, could get persuaded to stay and, you know, and be happy, and then therefore get their education that they need to have to survive. That's really what it's all about, as we all know. It isn't statistics and numbers, it's people. Yeah. Thank you, sure. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, everybody.
So you brought up the cupboard. Yes. And how do people, or how do the students know that that's available?
Right, so they get direct outreach from the coordinator of the program. And it also is, they also are referred by people. So if a faculty member knows a student is struggling, the faculty member can also do a direct outreach to the cupboard, who will in turn reach out. The cupboard has been very busy. We support it over the summer as well, but they're fully stocked. They are also making really strong connections with the regional food banks so that we can find ways to make our dollars go further. We also are working on how do we get, you know, more produce for our students, you know, more healthier options. And also the coordinator of the program has also done a solicitation across campus with really strong, these are the kinds of things that we really need. We have students who have food allergies, and we have students who have certain restrictions. So we're really trying to make it more where it's not just, you know, canned beans and Sam, you know, so when you go in there, you'll see, you know, we're buying a new freezer with the money, so there can be meat that's stored and poultry, and fresh breads, and again, fruits and vegetables.
It's just taken off. It's wonderful. It started just a few years ago.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
And then in follow-up to what Heidi was asking about the, you know, how do parents know? So my daughter's attending University of Albany, and I get an email every week that talks about not only the activities, but some of the offerings of those programs and things. It's always keeping the parents involved, and I guess I never thought to ask if we provide one here.
Yeah, so that's something that I've talked to Heather about, is to say, what is that's one of the things I've been learning about, what we do and what we don't do yet. But one of the things that we've been discussing is, what's the ongoing communication strategy and plan to families? Right now, our Dean of Students sends out like periodic messages, but it needs to be, more regular. It has to be very intentional about what messages are they getting at what important times of year. So that's something that we are working on.
Every Monday.
Yeah, and it's also a resource, it's resource management, if we're going to be sending an email or some kind of communication weekly. That's a big lift. We don't have a person right now who could do that, but I do think it's critically important. And we have to think about what are other ways that we can communicate with families. And so, yes, the Facebook group is great, but there's Instagram and, there's other things, but also town halls, things like that we can do. At my previous institution, that's something I did twice a semester. I would just invite families to come and do like an open chat with me on I used to do one in the evening and one on a Saturday so that you can kind of get folks at different times. So that's something I plan to try as well this semester.
I think Anna's had her hand raised.
Does SUNY Plattsburgh attract transfer students?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I'm so sorry. I apologize.
Does SUNY Plattsburgh attract transfer students?
Yes. So more and more, we're seeing a growth of our transfers. And with the greatest growth is in our degree completion programs. So particularly our Bachelor of Social Work, accounting, business, we've seen a little slippage in our RN to BSN online program, but that's what students are really interested in. If they're transferring, they want the flexibility that the online asynchronous programs are providing.
Michael, did you have a question? Christina's going first.
It's a bridge question for you and the president. And I've been thinking about this with the hopes of having increased students again. What is and I'm gonna say city gown plan, because or town gown relationship plan, because I think that's kind of gone by the wayside a little bit. I've heard in the community kind of people looking for what are we doing to address neighborhoods with lots of college students and so on and so forth. Do we have a town gown relationship plan?
Do we have a relationship plan? I would say that from my perspective, I have regular communications with Rosenquist all the time. Our UP has a constant presence in the neighborhoods that surround, as you move this way off campus, Couch Street, Wells, William, Brinkerhoff,
78 years.
strong presence there and supporting. There's a communication that's going on within ESS and specifically with Greek life and with student leaders. To the expectations of being good neighbors, being good pedestrians, being good citizens in the community. So that's an ongoing conversation as well. There are individuals in our community who are they're unhappy with students being present. And I think they can temper that with the impact that our students have on the community. And what I always say is when someone says to me, oh, those darn students are back, I said, you mean the ones that are in your K-12 classrooms educating your children? No, I wasn't talking about those. You mean the ones that are doing all that volunteer work and through the social work program or through the athletics? Wasn't talking about them. And I go down the list of all the things that our students do. And they say, well, that's not really what I was talking about. I was just talking about there's one student that I heard about that caused a problem. And I think that sometimes there's perspective that gets distorted. So it's almost like the funhouse mirror. Yeah, it looks a little bizarre, but if you just take a moment to step back and then ask like the question you did, Mike, it's great because we are engaged with those local neighbors. We have conversations in the neighborhoods. Our population of individuals who are enrolled here, they're getting counseled and they're getting advice from certainly from ESS and from others. So there is that situation. But Karen, I'll let you move on to the next.
Yeah, I think that it's always difficult. Right now we're dealing directly with a person who lives on one of those streets. But I will say there's some extremes, like he's gone to where he wants to hire his own security force in front of his home. And that
causes negativity on the other side as well. So our students receive emails on a regular basis about being good neighbors. What does it mean to be a member of our community? It's not just your life here on campus. But I also think we have to also, besides the things the president said, we have to think about the economic impact, SUNY Plattsburgh students have on the community itself. So we need to really always be promoting the impact in a positive way of what the university plays in the environment. And if students get in trouble, I meet, every week with university police and our conduct to see what happened over the weekend. We always are cooperating with the city police if there's any incident. And a lot of times our UP is, called to assist the city police in ways, particularly if we anticipate there could be a student involved. So I think our communications with the city and the police side are very, very strong.
Yeah, again, I know I sounded facetious, but I'm being serious. The problem, quote unquote, has always been with a few citizens and with a few students for as long as I can remember. Sure. Yeah, and long before I could remember. And having a committee is great. You give a chance for whomever to vent and then try to, I love your strategy, get them to calm down and think about what they're actually saying about all the college students. And then we have a situation where there are people who have moved into that area and purchased homes, and that problem's been in that area, I repeat, for as long as forever. And you knew that. And sometimes I want to go, the college is all around you. It's all apartments. You bought this house and now you're having a fit because the college is around you. I don't get that. Ugh. Anyway, but yeah, I think that committee is good, but everybody needs to get some sort of an award for sitting on the committee from the college because it's gotta be real fun.
And I also would be remiss not to compliment our university police. They do incredible outreach. If they should bottle up patience because they are very patient in having conversations with our community members, and they've had continual communication with any individual who has a concern with students. And so we do not let that one hang. We have those conversations and we work towards resolution, try to understand. I think, your point, Sid, is good. If you buy a house beside an airport, you shouldn't be surprised that there's airplanes.
Because there's noise.
Right, but there's a way that, well, if something's going on, let's talk about how we can, make this a better situation for everyone.
Sure, and all I was getting at is, we aren't the campus on the hill, right? And perception becomes reality, and as numbers increase, it's going to feel a larger volume of, in the community and the inflow to the campus too, making this campus feel as though it's open to the neighbors to come to sporting events and various things. So.
Yeah, the more you get them together, the better off everyone is.
We're connected.
Yeah.
Getting kids out in the community in positive ways too, community service type of things.
Can I ask one more ridiculous question? Because I can't figure out where I read it. But we're moving, or we possibly will create a store. Is anybody know what? I read that in there somewhere. Or we're expanding or changing the store. I was wondering if that was going to be the bookstore.
Cardinal Market.
Well, that's what or a store like you find at a lot of colleges that are just selling
Market that's
incidentals and candy and stuff like that.
inside the College Center.
Ah,
It's called Campus Express.
which makes sense.
So Follett, the people that were running it are no longer running it.
Oh,
So Charles is doing it, so they do that. Cosmetic, spruce it up a little bit summer. Now it's Cardinal Market, and then next summer is gonna be the full renovation. So we just managed a little bit of it.
okay. But I'm just curious. So it's not gonna be just a bookstore. It's-
No, the bookstore plan would be to go for its current site, and then
Oh.
it'll get put in Red K. The plan is for the bookstore to move to Red K, so it's next to admissions, it can sell.
Yes,
wine.
oh, yes. Oh, that's important. Yeah, oh, yeah. And this other is an incidental kind of store.
Yeah, it's just.
Which, man,
it's just a
alive,
convenience.
the money those places make on college campuses that I've been to, it's great. We should be doing it. Grocery stores might be a little, but just a little bit.
Well, self-checkout now, it's actually pretty, let's see, you want a big
Oh.
screen, you just.
Oh, God, I haven't been in there and.
Scan your item, scan your credit card, walk out. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I know that wasn't the most important thing on earth, but I said, no, I read it.
The question is worth.
No such things. Dr. Agnetti, your president's report.
So I know that I stand between us and Mike Howard, so I'll be a little bit abbreviated, but I would say that the conversation has been great. What it demonstrates in many ways is that our goal as a campus is to provide wraparound service for our students, and that's becoming even more and more important as we move to the, I'll say, the second quarter of the 21st century. Our campus is being, I'll say, continually updated and modified and organized to provide service. What I would just provide you is a visual, and maybe this is probably simple. If you just created a circle, and on that circle you put ESS, or Enrollment Student Success, DEI, Division of Equity and Inclusion, VP for AA or Academic Affairs, IA, the Institutional Advancement Group, and ANF on that circle. In the center is our students. And our students get wraparound service because you never know on what particular moment of the day or the hour or the week or the minute when a student is going to need help. And that's the way our campus is organized right now. And so I think all the questions you asked, Sid, and everyone else, we are endeavoring to provide all those access points. Some of our students, they spin there. On one day it's housing insecurity. On the next day it's food insecurity. On the next one, it's an issue with a roommate. I see the police reports. There's a lot of roommate disputes going on, and that's normal week 3 to week 4. I see a lot of welfare checks. I also know that students are concerned about the food plans that they're getting. They're concerned about missing class. So this all happens simultaneously. And I would say the reason we have that circle, it's a nice visual, is that we're all collectively working to ensure that students make it through what we would call the gauntlet of education here on this campus. And I would, for the most part, is that our goal is every student that we admit, and we accepted 7,956 students this year. Didn't successfully get all of them to come here, but all those students that we sent a letter to, we made a promise, said, congratulations, you're a Cardinal, we're here to help. And there are many, many ways that we do this. So I just wanted to just reflect that that's really what this conversation has been all about. It takes all of us working basically in the same direction to make this happen. So thanks for that. So quick report, it's week 4. Students' mood is changing. I gauge that just by simply asking the questions, how's it going? And I got 2 grunts today, and which is normal because typically week 1 it's yay, and now it's but I appreciate again each and every one of the members of the University Council for your dedication, for your advocacy, and certainly your attendance here today. Your participation is really our conduit to the community, and Sid, I appreciate your enthusiasm. You want to be, I'll say this, Plattsburgh State University's #1 cheerleader, and I appreciate you for wanting to be that. And I want our community to be excited about what this campus brings. And sometimes when I get a little pushed in a certain way, I want to remind everyone of the important impact that our faculty, our staff, and our students have on this community. We would be a far different community were it not for the university, and it's certainly the goodness that we create. So. Also want to say thanks to all of you that were here at the fall welcome event at the beginning of the semester. Based on anecdotal reports, it's the best one that's ever been in attendance since I've arrived here. Now COVID had something to do with that, but you know, what the heck. And I appreciate the gratitude from the individuals that received their awards and their recognitions. And certainly, you know, we lived up to the motto. We certainly celebrated our proud past and a lot about our strong future. You've heard the summaries, you've heard the reports. I'm not going to get into a tremendous amount of detail, but I will highlight a few things. We're looking forward to the tour of Memorial Hall. You're going to see some incredible changes in that building if you've not been in there for a few years. Just to go back to enrollment and budget, our semester census will finalize this upcoming week. So we'll have the details to your questions, Michael, about what does MELT look like, what is the attrition. If we're following the historic trends, and this is based on year-to-year data for the final numbers, it looks like we'll land somewhere around 4,425 students. And I think as we sit at this moment in time, Todd, it's 4,900 and something students.
4,496.
4,996, 4,496, I'm sorry. Misspoke. Yeah. 4,496, so we're.
Check the box on Plattsburgh next.
Yeah, right. We're done here. But the key is that we're expecting a bit more melt. That number of 4,425 would be about 50 students or 1% less than a year ago. And the good news on that is that it's actually flattening our enrollment declines that we had seen in prior years. So if you think about the term asymptote, it's coming down and now we're hitting a flattening phase. And what's good is that every class that we bring in at this larger number that we're seeing will actually add to future enrollments. So that will go to year 2, year 3, year 4. So it's a really powerful trend for the campus as we flatten and then start to see an increase as we go towards that goal of 4,800. Our incoming undergraduate class is at 97% of our goal of 1,410 students. Our new graduate enrollment, as VP McGrath mentioned, is really exceeding all expectations. We're at 127% of our goal. So clearly, graduate education is taking on I'll say a stronger role in terms of the mix of students that we serve. And that always goes back to the original question when someone says to me, what's your enrollment like, Alex? And I go, well, you're going to have to disaggregate that for me. Are you talking about transfers? Are you talking about first time anytime students? You're talking about graduate students, because that mix continues to change, including the in-state, out-of-state, and international students. When it comes to budget, our operating reserve balance at the start of this academic year, or it's the cash we have on hand in the bank, it sits at $14 million, which is essentially where it was a year ago. Our expenditures matched our revenues this past year, which is a good sign. And I think the question that came up earlier about I think Michael raised this question about meeting targets and budgets. Academic affairs met their cut using one-time dollars. They have not yet identified all their permanent cuts. And that was an option that was provided to academic affairs during the last academic year. The translation to all this right now is that we have a solid foundation, financial foundation to move forward from. Coupled with the increased state allocation that we received, we're well positioned for the next several years ahead. And with a continued, I'll say, unrelenting focus on our enrollment target of 4,800 students. However, just meeting the enrollment targets and growing has a lot of layers that are associated with this. This includes the academic portfolio that we offer. We're a 21st century institution working with 21st century students. And so you'll see things like the Memorial Hall later on, but we also want to ensure that graduates with their careers and connections to help feed the next generation of Cardinals. Put differently, we have a responsibility to ensure that our students, as they graduate, move into really great careers, and that becomes a strong advocacy for us to recruit the next round of Cardinals in future years. I also want to just touch on 2 critical factors that we're seeing that will impact our ability to serve students. The first is the Generation P student, and the second is our, I'll say, the emergence of the smart use of data to improve retention. And what I'll just return back to is retention is the magic to ensure that we are successful as an institution. We can bring as many students as we want here. That retention piece, we've already covered that in a bit. If Allison were here, she'd say out loud, every student needs to understand that they belong here. And that's really the mantra that DEI is helping the rest of the campus to realize. For Generation P, that's the pandemic generation. We've got to begin to grasp the reality of this group of students. The unfortunate thing is that Generation P, 2 years ago, some of those Generation P students were in 1st grade. 2 years ago, some of them were in 11th grade. That Generation P is going to persist and live for over a decade as they age and move through the system. So they're not going to go away. So the EAP, or Education Advisory Board, has explored the needs and challenges of Generation P, and it's this cohort of students that we're going to be serving as we move forward. Here's their main characteristics. Mental health concerns shape their college search, which occurs in terms of the current college-aged students. later than ever. Specifically, this group of students wants to know what mental health services are going to be available once they transition to the university. And I'm so pleased to echo what Karen mentioned a few moments ago about the new monies that we're receiving that will go directly to additional mental health counselors, but also within our accessibility services, there's services there that will help serve those concerns as well. As we'll find is becoming more prevalent, Generation P students are more academically underprepared than their predecessors. And this is caused by some learning loss and nervousness about success. So that's a challenge that we're going to have to work with. Extra work for our faculty, extra work for our counseling staff, extra work for that circle that I drew for you initially. We're all going to have to push a little harder to ensure that students are successful. Generation P students are eager for in-person events. They're craving this face-to-face experience. Yet, here's the conundrum, have high demand for digital experiences. They expect what they can do on this. They expect what you can do on a tablet. They expect a phenomenal website, Michael. All these things that wrap into what the digital experience is. The challenging part is that there's a tremendous question about the overall value of college education that's now creeping into every family's conversation. There is essentially, there is a inflection point that's occurring for some individuals to say, do I really need to go to college? And that's a challenging piece because that's the demographic that we want to help come to college. So we need to ensure that there's a clear focus on career outcomes for students as they come through. And we know a lot of this intuitively already. We hear it in conversations in the ACC and certainly conversations that I have with students. This is the landscape. This is our future for well over a decade to come. So as a campus, we need to become both aware and better prepared. So the awareness comes again through certainly listening to student stories, but also the preparation that we're going to see through the monies that we receive, these permanent dollars that will help support students. The other thing I want to just talk a bit about, we covered the cardinal cupboard, and I think that's an important component. Christina, you were asking about that as well. That particular entity on campus will receive permanent dollars from the new allocation too. So it's going to help support the operation and the acquisition of products for students. Also, there's going to be an increased amount of internships that are available for students on our campus. So it's roughly $250,000 in additional internship that are available. Perm dollars and academic affairs is working on that aspect in conjunction with ESS. So that's another positive in terms of supporting students. One question that always comes up is, do you know why students leave? And we can make a long list, but financial insecurity is a super powerful reason why. And a student that has to work a job because of their gap of expected cost and available resources, that can translate to 15 to 20 hours a week. That's a lot of time to spend in a job and then still try to be an on-campus student. So additional money that we can provide through internships, through essentially work-study jobs that are a lot more flexible, and scholarships that Ann Hansen's group is raising, lower that financial burden, make it far easier for these students to stay and retain. And you may be surprised to know that some of our students actually send money home to family for them to be able to, in many ways, be successful in their home communities. So it isn't just a matter of they're working to support themselves, they're supporting their families at the same time. So I'm always phenomenally blown away by many of our students when I hear their stories. I'm doing this, I'm the president of this club. I'm basically doing community service this weekend. I work this job, I'm taking 22 credit hours, and I go, oh my gosh. And do you sleep? I've got to figure it out. Oh, by the way, I'm an athlete as well. So, I mean, all these things that come together, our students are phenomenal individuals. Just take time to talk to one of them. You'll be inspired. We've also, I just want to move on to the other aspect that we're working on, and this is the student dashboards. And I'm thinking that as we talk about this today, I'd like to have basically a visual presentation to you at the next council meeting, where you can actually see some of these dashboards in there. But I'll just give you a little bit of a heads up as to what this looks like. The dashboards are designed to help us get a better understanding of the academic pattern of success for students. And so they were actually called student success dashboards. And they'll help us answer 8 critical questions. First one is, who are my students? There will be a set of pie charts that are available now that depicts background information for students. It'll include gender, race, ethnicity, average credit hours that they're enrolled in, the student level, are they first year, second year, sophomore? So you'll get a better idea of the demography of the students that are enrolled in your program, or in your classes, or in your, as Brent has trouble with, your school. As a side note, since we now are a university, what stops us from having colleges? I'll just leave that there and I'll move on. The second question is asking, how quickly do they progress? And that goes to your question, Sid, as well. Are students staying with the program? This is a series of time series graphs that show credit accumulation by students and their patterns. It provides information on gaps in graduation rates of first-gen students, gender, Pell recipient status, and race and ethnicity. Third question is, in which courses do they struggle? And barriers and blocks to student success moving through a 4-year degree program are absolutely critical to ensure we have students stay on course to graduation. So courses that have the highest rates of non-passing grades, so that would be D's, E's, and withdrawals. These will be basically the faculty and programs will be able to examine those to see, is there something that rises that deserves attention? There could be very well good reasons for this. In some cases, there are conversations that can have about the order of classes or how we do the pod games, strategies like that. The fourth question is, what are their or these students' academic outcomes? This will provide graduation rates, year-to-year persistence, credits earned at graduation, and the overall GPA at graduation relative to the entire institution. So you can actually look at the institution as a whole, and then you can say, well, what's it like in my program if I'm in biology, for example, to make that comparison. The fifth question, what paths do students follow when they're at the campus? I started out as a criminal justice major, but I graduated in the School of Business. Did that happen? And how often do these migrations occur within the student population on our campus? Because not everyone starts or finishes where they start. And many people sometimes finish where they start with a lot of other things as well. So there's a lot of migration that occurs with students. Which of our classes has the largest GPA equity gap? And that starts to get into understanding where we have equity gaps by first generation status, gender, Pell recipient status, and race and ethnicity. The seventh question that we'll be able to ask is, once students achieve junior status, how long do they take to graduate? The question that every parent probably asks, but it's important for us to know, once you hit that status of being on the cusp of graduation, do you stay on track? How many become 5th year, 6th year, 7th year seniors? Again, a question said you were anticipating this whole thing. Which students leave before graduating? Information on students who have left campus without graduating, including when students leave, whether they enroll at another institution, and differences in attrition based on first gen status, gender, Pell recipient status, and race ethnicity. These questions could be looked at and examined through the dashboard. And as well, additional dashboards being addressed that will actually look specifically at equity gaps for our campus, which is very important and goes to a point that Bridget and Tanya brought up with respect to, let's understand what it means to have an equitable campus and serving those needs for not just students, but also for faculty. So these are some of the tools that we're putting into play this year with the large retention aspect for enrollment. It's designed to do two things. One is to future-proof our campus to make sure that we are basically an important component of this community moving far, far, far in the future, but also to serve current Cardinals, but future Cardinals as well. We continue to use our Plattsburgh Next plan. It's our North Star. It's our guiding, I'll say our guiding path. And certainly the pillars and the milestones are our way to focus on the future. And if you want information about the Plattsburgh Next, I'd be remiss not to say, just go to plattsburgh.edu/next, and you can get information about the plan, about the implementation, and all the things that have actually been put into place, and data connect to the outcomes for those implementations. So growing, stabilizing enrollment, strengthening student success, and prioritizing equity and inclusion are evident by what we've discussed today. And it goes back to my little circle that everyone looking inward to be able to say, here's how we support students. Using data to make these data informed decisions, but also understanding what's the student profile that we serve today, and how can we do equally a good job or even a stronger job supporting students. And a question that Michael, you brought up in terms of town gown, we're engaging the North Country region. We're going to welcome a total of 1,000 eighth graders to campus this year for the I've Been Admitted to College program. So we're servicing the Franklin, Essex, and Clinton community college. Beginning next week, actually a week from today, we'll have the first group coming to the college, to the university. 500 this fall, 500 next year. This is a huge growth. 2 years ago, we brought 45, sort of a test run. Just give it a shout out. Andrea, I'm talking about you right now. Andrea coordinates the program with the support of Heather and Charisse and certainly Denise Samard. But we're turning schools away now. We don't have enough spaces to be able to bring all the 1,700 eighth graders that are in the North Campus. So that's the next grand challenge to be able to do this. How do we bring all of these eighth graders to campus to see our department? And as you've already heard, for future-proofing the campus, starting plans for the renovation of Red K into a dynamic, focused welcome center. It's going to be in the design phase for a $6.6 million allocation that's come from the state university construction fund. I got that right. And it's going to take a few years to make this happen, but when it's done, it will visions, alumni and advancement, and the bookstore in a very central location to be a forward-facing and essentially what I think is a step out into the campus as you arrive for a tour. The first thing you will be able to see is Hawkins, the fountain, and then the gateway to campus. So it's a great starting point. So with that, thank you very much for all each of you do to support this campus. I want you to be assured that there's a tremendous amount of activity that goes on. These meetings are, in some ways, it's kind of like the tip of the iceberg. The iceberg is huge under the water, and it's a nonstop. It's 24/7. I sometimes get asked. I go to a meeting and someone will say, "Well, I have my name tag. It says Alex Nietti, SUNY Plattsburgh." I say, "What do you do there?" I said, "My day job is president." I said, "My night job is president. My weekend job is president." I said, "I guess it's something," but I said it's the best job in the world, and I truly enjoy the opportunity to be, I'll say, part of this incredible group that makes this place do the magic that it actually does on a day-to-day basis. And if you distill it down to, we work with one student at a time. I mean, literally, it's one student at a time, and that's why even when I got the grunting student today, and as I walked across the street, I said, "How's it going?" And she went, and I said, "Is it all that bad?" She goes, "No, there's a lot of good stuff." And I go, "Thank you for sharing that." And that's really the magic of SUNY Plattsburgh. So, questions?
I just have a question. A lot of things we've talked about here today. There hasn't been, no one's talked about academic excellence. We talk about all the things we want to do for the students, which is great. And I think it's wonderful to support them at every level. But I don't think the college has any identity or much of an identity. Doesn't mean we're not doing a lot of good things, but not much of an identity. And I heard a term was from somebody, I think Texas A&M, believe it or not. And he was talking about the athletic program they have there. And he said, that's our front porch. And I think every school has to have a front porch, but I don't think we have one. And I think that's a mistake because we can't be all things to all people. And I think there is an attempt to do that. And we want to make people comfortable. I think the mental health service is wonderful. Food security is wonderful, but those things maybe keep people there, which is good, but it doesn't attract, I don't think, students. I don't think so. If you asked a person, you're going to college, and we'll say food security is number one on the list. I don't think that's the case. And it's easy to become distracted in that sense. For example, certain schools, the easiest one I can think of is, say, Notre Dame. That has an identity. You know what it is right off the bat: conservative, Catholic, and football. And nobody's confusing that. Nobody applies to Notre Dame and the University of Chicago. They're very close by, and I would say, well, I can't make up my mind. Which is it gonna be? You know, some people go to the University of Chicago, never want to go to Notre Dame. People go to Notre Dame, never want to go to Chicago. So I think that and I can just give, like, I taught here for about 40 years. And I taught in the accounting department. And the accounting department has done incredibly well at every level in terms of students, numbers, getting people, success. And when we would talk to the students, we'd say, first of all, when you come here, you're gonna get the best education in the world. You can pass the CPA exam. After you get the CPA exam, you're gonna get a great job. And we have so many alumni that would come back that have done such a great job. So I think we want to do a lot of good things, but I don't know, I just kind of worry about kind of this shotgun approach that we have I just don't think you can be all things to all people. And I think we can do a lot of things, but I think we have to focus. And if you ever watch, say, football on Saturday, which I tend to do, they always have an ad for the school in the right in the, say, at halftime, and say, like with Notre Dame, which I tend to watch, will have somebody that could be African American, but the catchline is all, I'm the Fighting Irish. So whether you're black, whatever it is, you're the Fighting Irish. And it's such an identity in there. I have some knowledge about school. Their endowment has just gone crazy because people identify, and not only that, they do, like, say, obviously Harvard. You go to Harvard because you know it's so good. I was talking to, actually, as friend of mine who was in New York City over the weekend, and it's Skadden Arps, which is probably the most famous, or probably biggest, most successful law firm in New York City. They basically only look at Harvard and Yale. Now, you may say that's a horrible thing, and I was arguing that there's a lot of good students, but they say that's what they do. So you want to be elite, you want to focus as best you can. And I think we can do it because I know so many students that I've had, they've gone out and they've got wonderful jobs. And we've had tremendous, like in the community, you know, the city judge, the federal magistrate, all of these people, they all went to Plattsburgh, and they've done great. And I just don't think, I think sometimes it's easy to have our message become kind of diffused. And I think it should be just, I think if we push academic excellence more than we do have all the other wonderful things, but I think we have to have an identity. And I think the School of Business, particularly the accounting department, has had a very crystal clear identity. I think some of the other areas is to kind of be, if you come here, you're going to be happy and we're going to take care of you, which is good. But you want to make sure that they get something out of it as well.
So embedded in there, there's a question, right?
Pardon me?
There's a question there.
Yeah.
I'm just curious because I think what I would say is when we recruit and when we do opening weekend sessions, we lead with academics. We talk about the quality of the academics here, and we talk about the quality of our faculty, talk about the quality of our academic programs. I watch students and I see them as they stand up. They're interested in liberal arts, they're interested in nursing, they're interested in business, they're interested in all the other educational programs that we got. There's no confusion that academic excellence exists here. And Jim, you said that we've got outstanding alums who have done great, lawyers, doctors. Yes, we do. That's because the academic excellence of this place there's no question of that. We are a SUNY, and I say that with a lot of pride. We are public education personified. We're the poster child for public education. You come here because we are going to give you the opportunity to succeed. We're not a private school. We don't have $1 billion endowment. We don't have a football team. I've heard jokes about Texas A&M. It's a great football team with a good enough school attached to it. I mean, they flip it over. I went to Penn State. I know the mentality that can exist in that kind of thing. But Jim, I don't want you to think that there's an identity crisis here. We are a very strong component of the SUNY. We attract students who understand the value of a public education that's affordable, and our student population has changed to the extent that they understand that there's a need for additional services. And we've built our campus to provide those services. And so this is what we've got. This is the new public education model. This is SUNY. And I'm damn proud of what we do at this institution.
I don't think anybody, I'm not accusing you of that, of being not proud. I'm just saying, in our discussion today, academic excellence didn't come up once. Maybe you, in your view, it's implied, and I'm not trying to be critical, I'm not trying to knock any of this other stuff. I'm just saying that I think at Plattsburgh, I guess my feeling is, I just think it's such a great school, and I went here, graduated from here, and my mother went here, and my sister went here, and everybody's been great. I just think, let's tell the world.
But I
So
think that's part of what Heather office is now really focusing on.
Well,
And
we can, okay, I'm just saying that I guess if we want our message to be effective, that's why I say, yeah, I think maybe if you focus things a little bit more, as opposed to saying we can do everything for you. If you're this, you're that, the other thing, everything will be taken care of and you're gonna be happier. I think if we just say a little more focus, and I know we can't have a lot of athletic teams, but that does help schools. That, the basketball team, say at Duke, turned Duke around from being kind of a nothing school. And all Doris Duke didn't help with her with tobacco money, but anyways, I think a lot of times that is so helpful. I just think maybe a little more focus, particularly on the academic.
that's something else, that's something certainly to keep in mind. And I think, you know, I don't know that necessarily we're going out there and saying we're all things to all people. I think that is for us to know that we can provide those things for people while getting out there and saying, you know, come to SUNY Plattsburgh because we can give you the best education. And when those kids get here, we have these things in place, I would think. But it's certainly something to.
And I don't mean to imply that we don't think about it. I know we do, and I know you do. And you probably think about it every hour of every day. I'm just saying we want to make sure we have a very clean, short message.
Jim, I think that the difference between Plattsburgh and any other school is we meet academic excellence with access, which is not what every university does. You know what I mean? Because I think Plattsburgh has a history of bringing C students in and making them, C students, B students, B students to A students, and A students have further opportunities to excel. Trio, for example, point of access, I wrote down them as the front porch. I mean, and this is not to take anything from the amazing faculty in the room at the moment. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Dr. Elwes, was recognized by the President of the United States, worked at this campus. Dr. Mohammed Gaber brings numerous people down to the New York Stock Exchange. So that the academic excellence, I think, is undeniable. I think what we need to do is we need to take that academic excellence and find opportunities to marry it with the incredible access that we provide where other universities and colleges don't do.
And I went throughout education. I mean, that's the backbone from 18 whatever here, and it is still so highly respected and a great program. And the nursing program is the other. Oh my gosh, it's just been here forever. And when you come out of here,
All of our programs, right?
you are highly respected. Yeah, and it's there. And maybe today we didn't talk about it as much, but I think we went. We were excellent.
We know that, and but here find different ways to get that message
And I
out.
can say that a lot of the targeted recruitment that we do with Slate, with admissions, it's not something that the general public might see because we intentionally target that population who is, our prospective students. And so they're getting the digital ads, they're getting the Slate outreach consistently as they're, trying to apply. So this is the value proposition of all our academic programs. We get those directly to the department, we get them to the faculty. So we do work hand in hand with them to get from them what is the core value of your department, what is going to bring in our students. So they're getting those beginning juniors in high school right up through when they enroll. And those are things that people can, I get them myself because I want to see what students are seeing. So those are things that you all could see, but you're not probably going to see them even on social media because we're geo-fencing to very targeted audiences. So unless you're a parent or someone, looking to go to college. So they're going out, we can always be stronger, but I just want you to know that it is happening in that regard and it's always updated. We update those so that they're current each semester with our programs.
Okay, yeah, well, I'll take two more questions. I think Mike is probably gonna be getting ready to leave. Christina.
The student dashboard that is being built, is that based on historical information or is that just going forward and then we can look back later? How is that?
Being built on historic, so we can actually upload banner data, I think through 2016 or 2015. So you can ask those questions, what happened with the class of 2015?
So we've got about 8 years worth of data.
Yes, yeah, and it'll continue to upload as well, so, yeah. It's super exciting,
It sounds very good.
and it's based on the Cal State system dashboards. So I received a friends and family discount to be able to access it for provosts.
Anna?
Okay, I'm begging, Mr. Coffee. Question for Miss Karen. What is the rate of the passing, the nursing student when they take the board, the nursing board? What is the passing rate?
So I don't have the most recent NCLEX passing rate with me today, but I'm told and that it's certainly like in the mid 80% for a first time passing rate.
Oh, it went down then?
I haven't.
She wouldn't know if it went up or down.
And so I haven't seen the ones from the graduating class because those numbers will come out early this fall because they were taking them all summer. So we'll have the link probably at the next meeting in November. We can certainly bring that.
Okay, I hope it would go up again because it used to be in the 90s, like close to 100%.
I know that we were looking with the nursing faculty on Friday and the class that entered in 2018 had a lower graduation rate. So we always have to be looking at, how many students started in nursing and finished in nursing. And of those that finished nursing, what is their passing rate of the NCLEX? So that's some analysis that Brent and myself and Todd are doing.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, Carter couldn't be with us today. We have a student association president's report. He's the new president. Hopefully we'll meet him at the next meeting. I will skip over a few things that I had in the interest of time. We will move on. Old business. Anybody have any old business? Okay, new business. We need to think about giving a distinguished service award at December's commencement, that is a university council award. And so I will need a group of 3 volunteers. It'll be via Zoom. Ken, the president's office, will solicit nominations and then provide those to you and ahead of time, and then we can discuss them at a meeting that could be done via Zoom. So Sid, you're in. Anybody else? Michael? You want to do it, Jim? Okay. Very good, thank you. All right, our next meeting is Monday, November 23rd. And if nobody has anything else, oops. Oh, did I say 23rd?
Thanks.
I think it's 13, right in front of it.
As long as you bring the cranberry
It is, I
dressing.
was looking at the year, 23. Our next meeting is Monday, November 13th. And if there's nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Michael, second Sid, and there are columns set up in front of Keo where you can park if you're going to take the tour